So tonight I'm happy to share with you, excited to share with you guys this seminar, Sleep and Live Restfully. So this is my first meditation webinar. And so tonight we're going to explore and discover meditation and mindfulness techniques for restful sleep and restful living. All right. I'm going to close down my eyes. I'm not going to do a full meditation, but just taking this opportunity to breathe into your body, especially into your sitting bones and your legs, and just feel yourself sitting here in this place. Feeling too, perhaps, the energy of, even in a virtual space, there's an energy of the people gathered. And especially as you breathe, taking breaths in through the nose and out through the mouth, if you can, if that's comfortable. Beginning to let go of your day, let go of where you've been, and even just inviting yourself just to be here now, be here now. Let go of anything that isn't here now, even if that requires some reminders as the mind drifts off, or things happen in the home and the space that you're in that take you away. Just fully arriving and taking this opportunity to relax, be a bit more present in whatever way, shape, or form that looks like for you. And when you're ready, you feel free to open your eyes and come back into the virtual space. Lovely. So now that we're feeling a bit more present, let's begin. I've got a track wheel on my mouse that I'm not literate with, clearly, because I keep scrolling through the slides, so sorry about that. All right, so our next and our first point that I would like to begin with, talking about stress and sleep, is the sleep-stress cycle. So stress and sleep are shown to have a reciprocal relationship, and this is called the sleep-stress cycle. So these 4 psychological experiences, which may resonate with some of us tonight, described in the sleep-stress cycle, are feeling stressed, overstimulated, having hormone imbalances, and not being able to switch off, which feeds to and contributes to having a sleep deficit. And then that contributes into feeling stressed, etc., etc. And so this is the cycle that goes around and around. So some other experiences and emotions, that we might notice when we're not feeling rested is like irritability and anger. So that can be a really common one. And for any parents in the room tonight, I can probably really relate to sometimes having to manage and carry on with some sleep deficits with young children. So sleep research says that this is due to chronic stress, and the chronic stress dysregulates our body clock and causes higher cortisol, and that physiologically makes it harder for us to fall asleep. So some really important terms when we're talking about sleep and learning about our sleep are the relaxation response and the fight or flight response. So the relaxation response is a term coined by Herbert Benson in the 1970s, and it's described as a physical state of deep rest that changes the physical and emotional responses to stress, so that we can actually trigger and control this response in ourselves and induce our own relaxation response, and therefore experience calming effects, slower heart rate and slower breathing and all those sorts of things. And the fight or flight response, which was a term coined by Walter Bradford Cannon in the 1910s. And so this is very common in our usage, both of these terms, but fight or flight is a really common term and usage. Some of us probably have heard of it here tonight. And so this is defined as a quick and unconscious neurological response to a perceived threat that stimulates defensive behavior. So the key word in that for at least our meditation practice is perceived threat. So we're coming back to, in meditation, acknowledging that our thoughts and our way of seeing the world is just that. It's not the truth. It's not the reality. It's just a perception, which means that if we can drop back into awareness and away from and behind our thoughts, then we can also trigger our relaxation response and get out of that stress response. So some of the things that happen when we're in a stress response or fight or flight response is increased heart rate, blood pressure, glucose in the bloodstream, muscle tension, high cortisol, as we said in the evenings, and noradrenaline, rate of aging. And some things that happen in the relaxation response, which also sound really juicy and just really nice. Reducing the heart rate, reducing blood pressure, reducing glucose in the bloodstream, reducing muscle tension, cortisol, noradrenaline, and reducing the rate of aging. But some ways that we'll experience this reduction of relaxation response, and at least in like my meditation room, the feedback that meditators give for experiencing relaxation response is feeling really light, or sometimes really heavy, or feeling really warm and feeling really calm and just at ease, and things aren't bothering them. The problems in their life still exist, but they're not as bothered and irritable, which is a really nice state to be in. So the physiology of stress, muscle tension, elevated heart rate, and digestive system effects. I've listed here just some meditation practices for us tonight that can support this and can support and release and relax these experiences and these physiologies of stress. So when we have heightened stress and we live in a fight or flight state, we can experience difficulty relaxing the body. We can experience rapid breathing and even panic attacks. We can experience stress affecting our digestion, upset tummies, and causing discomfort, which can be really hard when we're trying to go to sleep. So what's really important about all of this in the research around stress and sleep is that all of these experiences in the body are the opposite of deep sleep. So if we notice any of these in ourselves, then it could be an indicator that it might be difficult for us to fall asleep and might be difficult for us to relax. So before I move on, so body scans, meditation, and mindfulness for relaxing muscle tension. So typically and traditionally, yoga nidras and calming shavasana, like laying down, body scans moving through the body, and mindfulness moving through the body, where we are breathing into that area of the body, increasing the oxygen in the bloodstream and relaxing our muscles. Elevated heart rate. Again, breathing meditations can be really beautiful for this, but if you've ever heard of the Wim Hof method, so sometimes there's types of breathing meditations that increase and energize, and there are certain methods that do that. And then there's also breathing meditations, usually with an extended exhale, that calm our heart rate and slow down our breathing and our nervous system. And visualization meditations are also really beneficial for all of these. Okay, so research on sleep and meditation. So I just wanted to note for our own kind of reflection tonight, how sleep is measured and how we can kind of start to think about our own sleep and how we can improve that. So sleep quantity is one of the measurable variables of sleep. And so this is sleep latency, awakenings at night, and sleep duration. So I believe sleep latency is how long does it take us to fall asleep? So time between waking and sleeping. And then sleep quality is a depth of sleep, general satisfaction with sleep, etc. So it's just some questions around this that we can consider tonight is, how long does it take me to fall asleep? How many times do I wake at night, if at all? How many hours of sleep do I get each night? And then the more subjective area of this sleep quality is, how deeply do I feel I sleep? So how rested do I feel when I wake up in the morning, and how energized and ready do I feel for my day? And that being a really good indicator of the quality and kind of sleep that we're getting. So a couple of statistics around sleep. This study was done in the US, and it found that 42% of US adults in this trial said their sleep was poor, and that only 20% of adults in the US said their sleep quality was very good or excellent. And so now we come to meditation, mindfulness, and sleep, and the research around this. So Dr. Herbert Benson, who coined the term relaxation response and did a lot of research around meditation and stress, says mindfulness and meditation are one of a smorgasbord of techniques that evoke the relaxation response. So he's a psychologist, so he's coming at meditation from like a treatment point of view, which is usually like symptomatic and evaluating how effective meditation or mindfulness is in treating people's concerns. So a couple more statistics around meditation and sleep is the treatment for sleep is traditionally medication, but also some types of psychology. And only in the past 2 decades have we started to use mindfulness and meditation in treating sleep in the West, but in the Eastern world, meditation has obviously existed for thousands of years and has probably been used for many different aspects of people's lives, including sleep. So 75% of insomniacs who meditated in one study fell asleep quicker. So it only took them 20 minutes to doze off, as opposed to some of them would say an hour to 2 hours to doze off each night. And additionally, 91% of those insomniacs reduced or eliminated their sleeping medication, which is really cool. This was after 6 to 9 months of meditating, which I would say is like a mid to long-term meditator by that point. And that's also a really good indication of the time it takes for meditation and mindfulness to start making really profound and lifestyle impacts. And so the other study said that 60% of people reduced anxiety after meditating, which is really cool. And that was also, that was novice meditators, so people who hadn't meditated before. And that was also, I think, a 6-month trial. So the really important studies that have been done on sleep and meditation were for senior meditators. So I believe people who've been meditating for 5 years or longer with a regular practice. And so long-term meditators experienced regular relaxation responses. And this was measured using an EEG, which I think is the little nodes and pads that go on the mind and the brain and the body and the heart and all over us, to measure the heart rate, oxygen in the bloodstream, and breathing. Okay. So this was called a state of restful alertness in this study. So the long-term meditators experience a state of restful alertness. And it might be important to note that this was transcendental meditation and Buddhist meditation. So because these are the most popular and widely studied traditions of meditation. And the second statistic was that senior meditators spent more time in deep sleep and had higher positive brainwave activity and muscle relaxation. And so at the end of these trials, both of these trials, meditation was recommended as a treatment because it was easily incorporated into the patient's lifestyle, was cost effective, and required no equipment. Okay, so now meditation and mindfulness for sleep. Another quote here from Dr. Herbert Benson: "The idea is to create a reflex to bring forth more easily a sense of relaxation. That way it's easier to evoke the relaxation response at night when you can't sleep. Beautiful. So mindfulness is a non-religious practice brought to the West by Thich Nhat Hanh after the success of his book, Miracle of Mindfulness. So I'm sure we're all familiar with mindfulness and being mindful. Interestingly enough, mindfulness kind of by happen chance came into Western culture, specifically the US, in the 1970s after Thich wrote his book. He was a peace activist for Vietnam during the wartime in the 60s, and he wrote a book called The Miracle of Mindfulness, which was designed as, I suppose, an answer and a response to the war that was going on, and also help for his people and fellow monks who were really deeply troubled by the war that was going on. But it ended up being really popular in the West as well, which is lovely. And then Jon Kabat-Zinn, who is a psychologist, was a student of Thich Nhat Hanh's. I think those photos should be the other way around, with Thich first and then Jon, because he was a student of his. But anyhow, so he's a medical professor as well, and he made the practices really accessible to Westerners, and he kind of removed a lot of the faith-based and religious aspects of Buddhist mindfulness to make it really accessible. So I've got here just a definition, which is my definition of mindfulness. A lot of people will have their own relationship to mindfulness. An intentional act of present moment awareness without attachment to an outcome. So note here that without attachment to an outcome means that if you hear mindfulness is defined as a relaxation therapy, technically and historically that's incorrect, because mindfulness was created not for relaxation purposes, but on these 5 principles, which are the Buddhist principles of mindfulness: reverence for life, which is about non-harming, protection for people, animals, plants and minerals; true happiness, which is about internal happiness and not external happiness. So no materialism or dependence or attachment to things, but rather a more unconditional happiness and a oneness with reality. True love, the 3rd one, and that is about loving kindness, compassion, joy, and inclusiveness. Loving speech and deep listening, this is my favorite one. And this is about thoughtful and mindful speech and listening, capacity of words for understanding, and true love, living free of anger and ignorance. And nourishment and healing, the 5th one, about cultivating good health, physical and mental health, and living intentionally and honestly in harmony with ourselves, family, society, and earth. So if these have sort of a faith-based or religious kind of connotation, that's because Buddhism is a religion, and this aspect of it, these 5 mindfulness principles that would be removed if you were to practice mindfulness in a more medical-based setting or psychology-based application. It would still have some element of compassion and practicing awareness and that sort of thing, but it wouldn't have these 5 principles, which I really love, just especially because when we move on to the next aspect of our discussion before we meditate, the heart and having faith and practicing faith and practicing heart-based living is a really important aspect of meditation and living peacefully. So still my meditation, coming to the end now. This is my tradition and my lineage that I come from, and it is defined, and the principal outcome of still mind meditation is awareness or consciousness without thoughts. So meditation in the general sense arose out of a need for people or a community at large to experience something other than their present experience. So as we saw with Thich Nhat Hanh, that was war. And as we see with the 2 influences of the still mind meditation here, Bhagavan on the left and Sri Nityananda on the right, who both came from poor circumstances and difficult backgrounds and sought meditation because they had a need for it. And I think that's why we all perhaps seek anything, but definitely why we seek meditation is because we have a need for it, and we have a need that kind of arises in us and manifests in us. So there's three little sutras here, which are just the suggestions and they're contemplations for you guys tonight. And these come from my lineage. So the first one is that yoga, union, or unity and harmony and peace is stopping the things that roll over in the mind, which translates as that we experience peace, harmony, and unity with ourselves and with the world when we have no thoughts. Then the seer is in its true nature, is the following one. So that peace and harmony and unity is our true nature. And therefore it follows that stress and anxiety is not our true nature. And all the rest of the time you take on the identity of your thoughts. So the translation here is, it is normal and natural to have thoughts and to believe them and have conversations in our heads and identify with our thoughts and get worried by our thoughts. That's human, and that's going to happen. And that will continue to happen. But when we come here to the heart of meditation, which is one of the deeper and more life-changing outcomes, and that is that when we spend enough time in peace and stillness, and when we practice and cultivate this, we begin to recognize peace as being our true nature. And we begin to recognize that unconditional love is our true nature. And we can tap more easily into this, which we might experience back in the sleep stress cycle as feeling less irritable, feeling less angry, feeling like we have more space and feeling like we have more time just to manage things. And so Thich Nhat Hanh says that we have the right to feel stress, but we do not have the right not to deal with our stress. And I think he means this ethically as a kind of global responsibility, that when we're not pouring from a full cup, as some might say, we have the potential to harm ourselves and we have the potential to harm others. So it's really important for us to work on ourselves and practice awareness of ourselves so that we can be as positive and have a positive impact on ourselves and the world as much as we can. A quote here that I've included is from Jane Goodall, which she says, "I truly believe only when head and heart work in harmony can we achieve our human potential." So the practices that we're going to explore tonight, and the one in the middle is what we're going to move through, which is a guided meditation. But self-inquiry, which is some of the questions that I've offered and contemplations that I've offered tonight, and inquiring and looking at ourselves and asking questions about ourselves. It's one of the elements of meditation. Regular practice, regular cultivation of that relaxation response or stillness state is really important, as well as practicing unconditional love or compassion. Right? This is a quote that I always read for meditators in my studio who are struggling with sleep for whatever reason due to life changes, difficult circumstances, or even chronic insomnia. The breeze at dawn has secrets to tell you. Don't go back to sleep. You must ask for what you really want. Don't go back to sleep. People are going back and forth across the dorsal, where the two worlds touch. The door is round and open. Don't go back to sleep. So this is from Rumi, and I love this quote because figuratively here, I think it just illustrates a deeper need being spoken when we have trouble speaking. And I'm not saying it's easy or you shouldn't go back to sleep or you should tolerate lack of sleep, but that there's a deeper need here, and that meeting this need, asking questions around this need, is really important. So just to finish, some questions around ourselves, stress and sleep to take away What do I really need right now, big or small? What do I really want right now, big or small? And the biggest, more faith-based part of our humanness shows that we should lean on others, reach out to others, connect, and kind of embrace our humanness and talk about it and share it with others and normalize it. And of course, practice meditation to develop inner peace above it all.